Monday is off to a great start. Today we will be taking some notes, and you should see those posted on the Google Classroom. Notes 11:9 or 11:10, depending on which day you have social studies. But if you open those up, again, you will be able to open up the slides presentation and click on the red text boxes as they appear and fill in the word that corresponds. The words that you are looking for will be bolded and underlined in this video. If at any point you need to pause to listen or type, or if you need to re-watch any part of this video, feel free, because you do not want to miss important information. We're about a month away from our test, so you do not want to fall behind. With that being said, we are going to go ahead and get started. Last week we discussed migration and how humans began to move from one place to another. You should see this map on your Monday skill builder for this week. But quickly as we begin to look, we'll see that early humans started in Africa and began to migrate about 100,000 years ago, spreading out through Asia and up into Europe, and then down across through Asia into Australia, and then across the Bering Strait down into North America and South America. This will take several thousand years, as we do not reach South America until 10 to 11,000 years ago. Most of this was made possible by the geographic feature of glaciers. You can see that information represented here on our key. And as humans began to migrate, we began to notice that we would need to change. But what drew us to those areas? Again, this should be a review from 6th grade and from your skill builder last week. There'll be two main forces that either pull us to an area or push us away. Push factors are factors that force individuals to move voluntarily. In the video that I showed you last week, dealing with the zombie apocalypse, the video gave you 3 choices for push factors, and that would force people out of an area, either the zombies, the survivors, or the resources. The push factor should have been the zombies, as no one wants to live by zombies. So that would force people to move away from that area. Other push factors might include environmental problems. We've seen this in recent years as people have moved away from the southern coast due to hurricanes, or people have been moving from the west coast due to the wildfires. Extreme religious activity. We've seen this across times in history when people of the Jewish faith left Europe due to the Nazis taking over, as one example. Economic issues, the loss of a job, or the inability to find resources like food. Discrimination. After the Civil War, many previously enslaved people left due to harsh laws and racial discrimination. There's also political intolerance. We see this a lot now with immigrants coming from Mexico and Central America, where there's a lot of political unrest. Then you have pull factors. These pull factors are those factors in destinations that attract the individual or group to leave their home. These could be things like better economic opportunities, new job, better homes, better weather conditions. And we talked about this last week when we talked about grandparents being snowbirds. leaving Michigan during the winter months for warmer weather, places like Florida. Better cultural, political, climatic, or general terrain, and the promise of a better life often pull people to new locations. In the video that I showed you, the pull factor would have been the new resources that people would have needed to survive the zombie apocalypse. So at this point, again, hopefully you have a clear idea of what push and pull factors, based on our multiple conversations in class, video that I showed you last week, and that you talked about this in 6th grade. Something else that will often push or pull people away are biomes. Humans have had to learn to adapt to different climates and regions. A biome is a major ecological community that corresponds to a climate zone and is characterized by plant and animal species that have adapted to that particular environment. Biomes are composed of many ecosystems. Whereas biomes are limited to a particular climate, ecosystems tend to be limited by geographic features, such as mountains, rivers, or surrounding seas. Again, biomes are categorized by their climate, meaning their temperature and precipitation, things like how much snow or rain somewhere gets. But it will include the people and animals and plant life in that area as well. Biologically, all living things are closely adapted to their biomes. World biomes are determined by climate and their latitudes. Latitudes, again, are the imaginary lines that run east to west across our globe. Collective learning allows humans to adapt culturally. So while climate, animal and plant life will force us to adapt to our environment, meaning we'll have to find ways to either keep warm or cool down, find ways to gather food and hunt new predators. Collective learning allows us to adapt culturally. For example, if you were new to a school, you would learn how to behave based on the other students around you. That is collective learning, using the knowledge of everybody around you to gain an understanding. And hopefully this was a review, as I know you guys talked about biomes last year, but they will play a big part in human migration and the development of early humans. Biomes will force humans, animals, and plants to adapt to their environment. Adaptation is not always a conscious decision as movement, but people slowly change their behaviors and can take place over decades. Early humans did not just suddenly decide to start walking on 2 legs. We've seen this in our video and in our class discussions. This was caused by their behavior changes as they needed to adapt to their environment, conserve energy, get new resources. And we've seen our timeline as well, where this took many years to get to what we consider humans today. Adaptation can occur in a single generation or over many generations. Adaptation can also be a change through generations of people and their genetics. We've talked a lot about this as we've talked about human evolution and the slight changes that were made in our genetic code, which allowed us to comfortably stand on 2 legs. Those who are best suited to survive continue to reproduce and pass their traits on to future generations. Those who are not suited to survive will not or will not have as many children to pass their traits on to. Early human examples that we've studied, Ardipithecus and Australopithecus, didn't just suddenly disappear. Their genetics slowly changed, and they began to produce fewer children or fewer offspring, causing a rise in the Homo species. And again, we've seen this in our video in our previous class discussions. Here's our joke for today. If we can't beat global warming, I've decided to adapt. Another type of adaptation that began about the time humans began to migrate is language. Language is the system or way people in society create and use a shared system of communication and self-expression. This was important to the early humans as they began to migrate so they could communicate where they were going, dangers that they saw. When they got to a new place, they needed to quickly learn the environment as well as any cultural expectations based on other humans who might be there. So there was a direct need to be able to communicate in some way or another. Both the ability to use language and the social networks based on family allowed hominids to share more ideas, tools, and resources. Sharing ideas, one group could help another group solve a new problem, thus spreading their learning and thinking over larger areas. This idea of the spread of learning and culture is known as cultural diffusion. This is going to be a particularly important concept. I recommend highlighting it, maybe changing it to a different color in your notes so that it stands out. We'll focus a lot on how humans have spread ideas across areas. And this began with the earliest of humans, who, as they moved into new areas and encountered new problems, they could solve them better with more ideas and tools. The final part of your notes today will come from the reading posted on the Google Classroom, The Origins of Language. You will need to read the article and describe how language might have developed by filling in this flow chart. Development of language, many historians believed, over a 5-step process, and those steps will be listed in your reading today. So you will need to fill in this chart after you've completed your origins of language reading. If you have any questions on this or need any help, please let me know. If you need to rewatch any part of this video to fill in anything that you missed, please do so now. But you do not want to miss any important concepts. Also, make sure that you are using these notes to complete your exit ticket today, which is also posted on the Google Classroom. You do not have any questions at this time, you can go ahead and stop the video and begin reading your Origins of Language article. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.